Hello everyone. Let's take a look at this news about Trump suggesting that Canada becomes the 51st state. Now, is it possible? Can it happen? Well, if you check YouTube, there are some people that are making videos saying it cannot happen real soon, or it never gonna happen soon enough because it's a lot of things to do. My dear, it only takes the Canadian government to sit down, discuss, the US Senate sit down, discuss. When these two sides agree that okay, it is possible, they can come together and talk about how everything is going to be arranged. You see, they can put down laws and rules, all that agreement, they put it down, they write, they sign that. All that can be done in a year. Do you see that? And why wouldn't Canada want to be part of a superpower? They would want to be part of that. Do you see that? We know, or rather, if you check more videos, you will find that some nationalities of Canada, they love the idea. We know it's not the first time this idea has been brought up. Way back. They've tried, it never worked out. And then we hear that Trump, when he was in his first term, he had already brought it up again. But he has brought it up again right now. It's possible he can be serious and he can just convince the Canadian government to do this. Who wins? Some people think maybe it's US wants the resources that Canada has. Look, you will see the GDP of the states. Some states, they have stronger GDP than Canada. Canada is more like fourth to some of those states in USA. Let me just show you a quick map right here for some of you who might not really understand what's up. So look at that. USA, that's Canada, Alaska. And it would even work much better instead of the way things are right now, whereby for you to get to Canada or to get to Alaska, you have to go through Canada. So it would be a very, very good idea. And if Canada agreed to that, they lose nothing. In fact, they gain to be part of a country that is considered as a superpower. Like I said, some of the citizens, they like the idea. But let us see. Let me not talk much. Let's just jump into those clips. You will see the explanation. Yes, they say that Canada has resources that USA may benefit from. It's the whole as a nation. If they come together, they gain together. Do you see that? They don't lose anything. In fact, Canada loses nothing when it becomes part of maybe what they're saying, some of them, that maybe the sovereignty. What is sovereignty when you gain power? So that's it. So let's just jump in and see what's up.
There's 41 million Canadians, basically the population of California, sitting on the world's largest amounts of all resources, including the most important, energy and water. Canadians over the holidays, the last 2 days, have been talking about this. They want to hear more. And so, there's obviously a lot of issues, more details, but what this could be is the beginning of an economic union. Think about the power of combining the two economies, erasing the border between Canada and the United States, and putting all that resource up to the northern borders where China and Russia are knocking on the door. So secure that, give a common currency, figure out taxes across the board, get everything trading both ways, create a new, almost EU-like passport. I like this idea, and at least half of Canadians are interested. The problem is the government's collapsing in Canada right now. Nobody wants Trudeau to negotiate this deal. I don't want him doing it for me, so I'm going to go to Mar-a-Lago. I'll start the narrative. The 41 million Canadians, I think most of them would trust me on this deal.
Yesterday's joke on the show was about Justin Trudeau, on how Trump taunted him. Trudeau was in Florida to meet the president-elect. He wanted to discuss tariffs with Donald Trump, but Trump refused to budge. He delivered a joke/insult to the Canadian Prime Minister. Trump said to Trudeau, if you can't pay the tariff, just join the United States, become our 51st state. Apparently, Trudeau laughed nervously at this. His ministers also called it a joke. But with Donald Trump, who knows? This is a man who tried to buy Greenland from Denmark, who suggested drinking bleach to cure the Wuhan virus, so nothing is off the table. Trump also posted this picture on social media. It's an AI-generated image. It shows him standing over Canadian mountain ranges. And look at the caption, "Oh, Canada." Could Donald Trump be hinting at something here? Well, his joke does have some history. There's a Wikipedia page on Canada joining the US. A few Canadian parties have pushed for this merger, but none of them really took off. Today, there is no appetite for such a move. The mere suggestion is controversial, and you can see why. America is a very powerful neighbor to have. Their economy, their military, their culture, all of it looms large over Canada. And financially, they are dependent on the US. Nearly 75% of Canada's exports go to just one country, and that is the United States. Even politically, there's alignment on NATO, on West Asia, on Europe, on the Indo-Pacific. Their foreign policies often mirror each other. Add to that a massive border. It's almost 9,000 kilometers long. It's the longest international border in the world, the US and Canada. Most Canadians live near this region. The north is too cold and often uninhabitable, so 80% of all Canadians live within 160 kilometers of the US border. Hence this worry of being gobbled up by the US. And it's not a recent concern. It dates back to the 18th century, to the Revolutionary War against Britain, sort of like America's war for independence. During this war, the US Army tried to invade Canada. Back then, Canada was occupied by Britain, so British soldiers beat them back. Another attempt was made through America's first constitution. It was adopted in 1777, and it invited Canada to join the United States. No strings attached. But again, the British rulers rejected it. Years later, in 1812, the US invaded again, and once again, the British beat them back. They also burnt the White House for good measure, which pretty much settled the debate. But in the 1980s, it emerged once again. The reason was not an invasion or a political document. It was a free trade agreement. Canada and the US were discussing a trade deal in 1988. Canada's Conservative Party supported this deal, but the Liberal Party did not. That's the party of the Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau. It was led by a politician named John Turner back then. He said a trade deal would dilute Canada's sovereignty, that it would eventually reduce Canada to the 51st state of America. Listen to this.
I will not let this great nation surrender its birthright. I believe that Canadians are not going to vote for Brian Mulroney, a man who would be governor of a 51st state. They're going to vote for John Turner, a man who wants to be Prime Minister of Canada.
A lot of people shared this view, including the New Democrat Party, which is the party of Jagmeet Singh. So did a number of activists and political commentators. But the Conservatives prevailed in 1988. They signed that free trade agreement with Washington, D.C., and as it turned out, Canada is still a country. But let's come to present day. Donald Trump's joke about Canada is not new. His advisors say that he used the same line in his first term as well. He also followed that up with tariffs. Back then, Justin Trudeau responded in kind. He imposed tit-for-tat tariffs on US imports. But this time, he's a lot weaker. If not, he could have actually stood his ground. I mean, just look at the numbers. The Canadian border made up just 0.08% of all drug seizures by US officials. Only 0.08%. Same with illegal migrants. American officials caught 23,000 migrants at the Canadian border for the entire year. 23,000, which makes up just 1.4% of the total. So the fact is that Trump is exaggerating the threat from Canada. His tariff threat is simply unfair. But to question that, you need strong footing. You need a decisive and a popular leader. You also need a diversified economy that can sustain pressure. Canada does not have any of that. What they do have is Justin Trudeau. Unless Canadian exporters start talking about Khalistan, don't bet on him to protect them.
Why is Canada's capital, Ottawa, is so close to the USA? Canada's capital is just about 100 kilometers away from the US border. With all of Canada's vast land, why is it not located anywhere at the center of the country? And why did they even choose Ottawa at all? During the War of 1812, Canada, which was then controlled by the British, was at war with the USA, with Canadian forces even capturing Washington, D.C. and setting the White House on fire. Given the history between the two nations, it seems logical that Canada might have chosen a location farther from its neighbor for safety. But they didn't. Even with growing cities and developments, they choose to keep the capital near the border. So why is that? There are two reasons for this, and the second one is the most important. The first reason is that the northern part of the country is mostly empty and hard to live in, so big cities and industries are near the southern border. But more importantly, the second reason is Quebec, which was once a French colony, so it has tried to be independent a few times. So Canada keeping their capital to Ottawa helps keep Quebec stable.
What if Canada joined the United States? So gaining Canada would be a huge buff for the United States. You see, even though Canada has fewer people than even California, it still has a huge unexploited land with the second largest oil reserve in the entire world. Secondly, if US gets Canada, it would gain the complete control of the Northwest Passage. Now this passage would be the most important shipping route in the future, as it has the potential to shorten the distance from Europe to Asia from 30 to 35 days to just around 21 days.
Recently, Donald Trump suggested Canada join the US as a state. Here's how that might look. The U.S. territory would span 7.6 million square miles, 13% of Earth's land area, making it the largest country, surpassing Russia's 6.6 million square miles. With vast resources, the nation would have 200 billion barrels of proven oil reserves, abundant timber, minerals, and the world's largest freshwater supply. Its population of 373 million would bring a substantial increase, though it would still lag far behind China and India. Economically, Canada's 2.2 trillion GDP would rank as the fourth largest among US states, behind New York, but ahead of Florida. The total GDP of $28 trillion would solidify America's position as the world's largest economy. However, per capita GDP, at $53,834, the state of Canada would rank near the bottom, just above Mississippi and below Arkansas, despite its resource wealth.